We began this episode by visiting Salty Lips Studio on Orchard Street and its founder, Robyn Martina Miranda.
So I wanted to get right into, I know what you do, and I've worked with you before, and it's a beautiful thing to do. I want people to know what you do. Very quickly, tell them what your discipline is and kind of how you got into it.
So I do mainly photography, horror, fantasy. Fantasy, as we talked earlier,
Yes.
is kind of, dependent on the person.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that they're thinking, it's a creative process between a few people, depending on how many creatives you have on. We do the set building, we do props, we do hair and makeup, some SFX work. We work with all different types of creatives. It's really a space that is tailored to fit the needs of whoever wants to use it.
So it's like, I've worked here before, so I know, but it's like a variety of different things, and it's very wide open. How did you get to making it? What was the decision around making it this wide open?
The layout mostly, it's got the big wide windows. It's easy to make separate sets and still have area for other people to work and kind of work around.
So it makes it easy to collaborate in here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in here with the team, and we had a blast. One of the things that we noticed the most was the horror theme. Why that?
I think I kind of just fell into it. I mean, I love horror, but I do love a lot of movies. The horror, it's kind of more of the horror, sexy, bloody. I started with the Killer Housewives, so kind of your pinup style. So they're very beautiful, but have some sort of machete or knife and a little bit of blood. And it kind of just rolled from there. People really enjoyed that, and a lot of it is more or less acting. If you're with other people doing the same thing, you're fake killing, and it becomes kind of a whole scene, and it's nice to be able to work with others to kind of get those visions.
Yes, of course. I always feel like stuff like that, as long as you do it classy and with taste, it comes out beautifully, and I've always felt that way about your work.
Thank
and that's
you.
what me and my friends always discuss, is that Robyn's work is on the edge, but it pushes that edge in such a tasteful manner that it's easy to digest.
I appreciate that.
How does somebody get to that state of being able to understand the balance of pushing the envelope a little bit, but still being able to reel it back enough for people to digest it in a wide format?
Well, it didn't always start that way. It was a lot more. I went to school for historic preservation, so a lot of my aesthetic in the beginning was more about the building than the model, or a good, combination of the two. It'd, be further away shots of a whole building with a model in it, sometimes in like a beautiful gown with a decrepit building. And it kind of evolved from that. As an artist, you don't stay in the same realm too often. You kind of try to figure out what other things make you happy, what genres you like, what you work well with other people doing. As I don't always do horror. We had a blast, and we told stories in a lot of our photos, which is a beautiful thing, and what artists are trying to do.
You have to have some sort of engineering to be able to build the stuff that you're building. Where did that come from? Because that's a very different discipline than photography per se. How does that come about?
So I did go to Vogue. I graduated a long time ago, but I graduated in the architecture department, and I went to the Boston Architectural College in Boston on Newbury Street. When you're studying architecture, it's very much live, eat, breathe, sleep architecture. And as much as I loved that, I found different ways to showcase that without having to actually be in that field. And there were some girls who were modeling at school for figure drawing classes as a way of extra money, and we collaborated and kind of went around to the historic buildings, the old ones, and took a lot of photos. And in that, I have a lot of photos where I lived in East Boston in front of buildings that are no longer there. It's a piece of history that, and because I went to school, I understood the history behind a lot of the buildings. and that's a cool part for me, as it ties in my art, but also my love for the historical buildings and what they mean, and what they've done.
That is historical preservation in
Yeah.
a sense, right? Because you're documenting something that was there, that is no longer there, that probably kind of gets replaced in people's memories, but what you're doing is keeping this infinite time loop going, where you've created art around historic preservation and tying in the architecture around it. When you're building things or engineering, it's perfect storm of all the things, and I think that's what makes creatives in this area very formidable in all forms of creativity. What's it like having a studio in a loft this big? Because a lot of creatives don't know. I mean, what is it like to be able to call this your own?
So when I started, I did not realize this would be more than a full-time my second full-time job. It's a lot of work. I spend a lot of my extra time here. I don't mind being here. It's a great way to get the anxiety from work, from the daily struggle. It's a good way to relax and kind of, okay, I'm back here, I can do my art, this is what I want to work on. And it gives other people a place to work as well. I like having people with me, so I'm not necessarily here alone that often, but so it's just a great place to be, to create, to have others come and create, and it's great to work with another group of people and get their side of what their ideas are, because not everybody feels the same way or sees the same thing, and working with a collaboration really furthers you as an artist, because you're getting very well rounded. You're getting input from all different lifestyles, from all different art, whether it's music or painters, everybody kind of has that vision.
Being here before, off camera, being here before, I felt that there was a sense of that energy here, where it was a great third space.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a great time. I mean, I say we, but it's really myself and the other artists, I'm the one here building sets and messaging with you, what are you guys looking for? And it was great to have you guys in here, and your whole group were really excited to see all the things, and it instantly sparked ideas, and they were like, oh, I have this movie that I'm writing, and there's this scene that, like, right here I can picture Henrik and so here conversating, and that's what is beautiful. It helps all the creatives, and it's that snowball effect, and we got to keep that going. I mean, New Bedford is so intertwined, and we have so many different industries here, and it's cool to have everybody here and everybody working together.
Robyn, thank you so much for having us here. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm always excited to witness what's happening here. And where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm working on my website right now. It's Salty Lips Studio is the name of pretty much everything on my platforms. I do also go by Robyn Screams for my modeling, and you can find me here at Salty Lips in New Bedford.
Thank you for having us. We are here with Leia Onofrey, cinematographer, talented filmmaker, video maker, content creator, part of the New Bedford Film Festival, correct?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Welcome. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing good. I'm pretty nervous right now because I'm usually the one behind the camera. But it's kind of cool being in front and to have this opportunity and to finally meet you. And
Right. We have a lot of communication through the arts, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in front of the camera. Was you're very talented behind it, but people behind the camera very rarely get in front of it.
That's
true. I felt like this was a good opportunity.
Absolutely.
So for the people who don't know you, who may be living under tons of rocks, give them a brief bio, break down who you are, where you came from, what got you into standing behind the camera and filming.
All right. Ooh, so we go way back, all the way to 2005, I'd say. And I saw Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so
The Johnny Depp version.
the Johnny Depp
Okay.
version, yeah. I love Johnny Depp. He's
Excellent.
awesome.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
But yeah, that's the movie that did it for me. I saw it and I was just like, oh my God, like how is that made? And seeing like the colors, seeing the way everybody was acting, and the camera shots especially is what got me, like the different angles, the different push-ins they did, and I really enjoyed watching it. Like it gave me goosebumps all over. And then I think I started with YouTube videos. That was kind of like my playground for a while. I kind of did a lot of like short films, a lot of silly stuff with my brothers. And that was really nice to be able to do that. And then it wasn't until I think I was in high school, maybe when I was about 14, I was in media technology, and Miss Gaspar, she introduced me to New Bedford Cable Access, and she said, hey, like, you want to go out and you want to actually be behind the camera, you want to do this, you should try working at New Bedford Cable Access. And so that was one of my first official professional things that I got to do. And I remember around that time as well, I met Ben Gilbarg.
You're just name dropping.
Yeah, because these are all the people and places that really sprung me into film, into video. And so he was running Third Eye. He was telling me, hey, like, you do video, I can definitely help spring you into video doing stuff at Third Eye. And I've known him since. I've worked with him since, and we've done so many things. Yeah, like so many things around New Bedford.
And then from there, where did you go?
So from there, I got into Emerson, and I was like, I'm gonna go there. And so that's kind of what happened around that point in my life. I started doing more film production. I started actually doing real sets and working with a whole big team. So like I went from going from like a 4-person team to having like 20 people. And so that was crazy, because it's like I got to see more into the movie side, which is what my heart's really in. And you know, learning about like storytelling, learning about how the director works, learning about how the producer works with everybody, how the actors work with everybody. And so yeah, I got into all that. You
and I have had conversations, obviously off camera, because we know each other kind of creatively. And one of the things that I think that you and I have had a conversation about that is very interesting is the juxtaposition of being a parent and being a creative, and how kind of challenging is the word that I'll use, right? And I think the last time we spoke, it was like you have to pick your times, right, to be one or the other, and then keep a balance, because it's kind of hard to keep that balance, right?
Oh, yeah. So one thing, that's definitely been tricky is, trying to juggle both, because you want to have that work-life balance, but you also want to have time with your family. And so my husband and I, you know, we're very big on teamwork. We're very big on working together, helping each other. And he's been one of the most supportive people I've ever had. So last year, my daughter was born in January. And about a few weeks later, our job that we both worked at fired us without notice. And they didn't give us like any warning. They kind of were just letting a bunch of people go. And it was probably one of the most hardest times in my life. But my husband told me, he's like, you know what, like, you know, you're so talented, you love video so much. He's like, now's the time. He's like,
absolutely.
Yeah, and he's like, use this pain to start a business, use it to grow something beautiful, to finally put your heart into everything. And so that's where Leia's Lens came about. Yeah, and I've always worked for other people. I've always done a bunch of stuff, different companies, different teams, but I said, you know what, it might be kind of cool to do something for myself.
Yeah.
And it's also cool too, because with being a parent, you know, I'm allowed to make my own schedule. I'm allowed to go out when I want to go out. I'm allowed to say, hey, this is my availability, this is what I can do, and kind of work around that. And so it's nice, because being in control of my work and what I'm able to do, being able to work from home, doing the editing, that really helps out with being a parent as well.
As an artist, I know I have pieces that I'm very proud of and that I like to show off as much as I can. Tell me about your favorite pieces.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite pieces I did in 2019, it's called The Girl with the Blonde Hair. And it's a short horror film. I could only do it in 5 to 6 shots, and I had to tell a story behind an image. And so this one was about a siren who lures people in and kills them, because I like horror stuff.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to scare anybody. But so I'm really proud of that, because I really, I put my all into that with the color, the lighting. It's the genre that I'm really fascinated in is horror, scary stuff. And there's this one shot specifically that I love so much, and it's a push-in to the shower, and I had this light behind the girl, and she's kind of like cleaning off in the shower, but all you see is like a silhouette.
Okay.
And I'm really proud of that. I don't know, it was with a really cheap light, but I did the job. And
sometimes that's all you need, and it's like knowing what your tools can do for you and what skills you have actually transforms it.
Definitely. And I really like that, and I just did this recent work as well for Eva Brito for her Soul Calling retreats. And so I'm very proud of that as well, because I know it's touched a lot of people. A lot of people have mentioned to me that I've got their heartstrings, and that's what I want with my work, is I want to be able to capture people's emotion, and I want them to feel that. So
Eva Brito's Soul Calling retreats are a fantastic thing. I've seen your video for Eva Brito's thing, and I gotta agree, it does pull on the heartstrings.
Oh.
It's a very beautiful piece.
Thank you.
So we finally had an amazing and much awaited film festival here in New Bedford this past April.
Yeah.
You were involved.
I was.
A lot of prominent cinematographers in that area were involved. What was it like? Tell me about it. What was your experience?
It was amazing, and just being able to be a part of that in my city was just something so big, like something that I've always dreamed of. And I know this stuff makes me emotional, so I hope I don't cry. Whew. But like,
Wipe them away, girl.
yeah.
Keep talking.
And so when we started the film festival, I was extremely excited. Ethan D'Aguiar, he brought me on board, and I remember his eyes just lighting up when we were talking about it. And he was just like, would you like to be like on the board for the New Bedford Film Festival? He's like, I'm thinking of making this a thing. The city's never had it. This is gonna bring all of the talented artists together, people that, how you were saying, like, we don't really hear their names. Sometimes they're doing all this stuff, but people don't know about them. And so I thought it was an excellent idea, because I could definitely relate, where I felt like, wow, like, I want to meet more people like me, more people that are passionate about this, more people that get goosebumps all over when they're doing this kind of stuff. And so having the first ever New Bedford Film Festival, I remember telling my dad about it. He cried. I cried with him. And he was just like, wow, like, this is my city. And he's like, oh my God, like, you're gonna be a part of this, and this is gonna go down in history. And this is something that is so rich in terms of bringing out just, they specifically had certain spots. So like Gallery X, we were at Co-Creative, we were at Groundwork, we did our presentation at the Wheeling City Museum. And so one of the things that Ethan, as well as the rest of the team, wanted to do is to bring in all of the places around New Bedford and downtown. Specifically, this is like the historic area. This is where, we got a lot of history with the Wheeling City.
So no better place to make history than in a place that has such history, right?
Exactly. And that was such a big thing, was to just make people want to come back and want to be in New Bedford and get excited about New Bedford.
What was your role?
So I was on the board of directors for the film festival. So we did a lot of Zoom meetings and everything to kind of plan everything out. I was more so doing a lot of the judging of the films. And so I probably went through, I don't know if it was about 45 different films. So I got to look at those. I got to rate them in terms of story. I got to rate them in terms of like the technical aspect. And so I got to be like, hey, I think this one should be nominated for like best screenplay. I think this should be nominated for best writing. And so I would say that was one of my main roles for the festival.
So, Leia, tell the world where they can find you, how they can find you, and what else to look forward from you.
Okay. If you go on Google or even in the search bar, type in Leia's Lens, LeiaSLENS.com, you'll find me. I have all my work on there, so.
Thank you for coming out and traveling to come see us and spending your time here with us and telling us all about you. We appreciate your work and your talent, and we wish you a lot of luck going forward.
Thank you so much.
We are here with someone who I think is a photography extraordinaire, and a great lens is something that I like to call this type of practice and this type of discipline. Josh Souza, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm always good, man. Nothing to ever complain about.
Awesome.
You and I always cross paths at multiple community events. I see you at a lot of community events. Tell me what that's like for you, because I know that's not a normal realm, right? Like, that's not the typical realm. Some people want to do photography, they want to do magazine work. Community events, I see, is kind of becoming like your niche. What's that like?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I got into photography. I had a webzine. This was back in the early days of the internet.
Okay.
And I used to cover bands and stuff around this area. I stopped doing that for a long time, and then I got back into photography because I was a bored stay-at-home dad. I started doing seascapes and stuff like that, landscapes. I ended up covering a fallen soldier's return home, where they had like a procession for him.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, this is something like meaningful. This is deep. And it just kind of went from there, where I just wanted to be a part of the things that are happening in the community, like kind of a fly on the wall, being with other people, experiencing these different things, sometimes pain, sometimes happiness. And it just ballooned from there, and I've been doing it ever since.
So I, as a musician, am interested in hearing in what your time was like covering bands at that, like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I was a teenager at the time, obviously.
Oh, wow.
I had a film camera, started with a film camera and then got a very cheap digital camera. I got to cover a lot of hardcore metal bands. There was a big music community in New Bedford of teens and young people. It was really cool getting to go to places all in this area and just kind of end up getting in for free because I was covering it.
God, that's beautiful.
And it really, like, you get to play a part of a community, and it kind of the same thing where like what I do now. I'm a fly on the wall, experiencing things with people, not necessarily directly to me, but like I'm there and I'm capturing a moment. And I thought that was kind of special. Bands are cool. The stuff I do now is obviously much cooler, but I do still cover music.
That's awesome. I'm always, as a musician, I'm always asking people like how their discipline has tied into the music scene in New Bedford, because I've come across it now, but it's not something that I was involved with before, maybe like the last 5 or 6 years, like really ingrained. So I'm like, oh, what was that like? What was that like? Because I know what it's like now.
Yeah.
You were at Standard Times, correct?
So I was a stringer for the Standard Times. Never got to be a staff. Unfortunately, they started slowing down in their employment.
The newspaper industry in that medium has also changed, and I'm sure that was a huge line for photographers. What have you seen has changed the most in the landscape for photography in your time?
Yeah, so everybody's got a camera in their pocket, and that's included with reporters. So at news media, a lot of times they'll find a simple photo from a phone is good enough coverage. I don't think it is personally, because photography, when you're a real photographer, when you're standing there and you're listening, but your eye is on everything. You have a different perspective than most people do. That I think gets lost when you don't hire a photographer for certain things. But everybody has a phone in their pocket now, and you can see that, like, just public journalism from just the general public is now a big thing. You see it posted on Twitter, and then somebody will buy that photo from a news agency, and they use that as their story. So I think there's a little bit of loss there with how things are shown now. But you know, everybody's got a camera, so.
Yeah. I know that I do a lot of decent work with the camera in my pocket, but I wouldn't expect that I could cover like marketing at a high level like you should maybe without having a fantastic lens. So I know that I employ my friends who have photo and camera history and have a good discipline in it, because I understand how far that could take a brand. And I do agree that having a camera in your pocket kind of puts you in a juxtaposition where you get like to enjoy more photography per se, but it may kind of pull away from what you're doing.
Yeah. You know, you just kind of go with the flow of how things are going. The industry always changes, right?
Yes.
When it was film photography, and you know, the Standard Times had their own film development studio inside there. Some people can't shoot film. You have to know a little bit more with cameras than you do now with digital cameras, where a lot of it's done for you in camera. So it's all about just kind of going with the flow of the times. I love documenting things. I love being at different events and experiencing things with people. So I plan on doing it forever one way or another, whether it be as a business person or just as a casual photographer. I'll always be a part of it, but things change, and that's okay.
As a dad, I heard you say that you're a father.
Absolutely,
correct?
yeah.
Yes, as a dad, I know that connecting my discipline with music and pretty much anything that I do, I try to tie it in with my children as much as I can. And it's tricky because children are very handsy with things. What has your experience been like with photography and dad? Has that tied in? Has that connected for you?
So I tried getting my son into photos, and we did some like photo walks when he was really young. He's 14 now. He doesn't care about the camera too much. He calls me the New Bedford camera guy, which I think is funny.
It's a fantastic title.
Yeah. But one of the fun things right now is he's just starting to really get into some sports and stuff like that. So he's on a couple cycling teams, and he plays guitar now. So I'm getting to photograph him as like a young man. Kind of when I started getting into photography is about the age he is right now. And that's been really special for me, and I hope that, you know, when he's a little bit older, he can appreciate all the professional photos he has.
I mean, it's a luxury to have your dad be someone as talented as you. So I'm sure along the way he'll learn to appreciate it. But right now it's kind of probably something that's normalized to him.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
You get a ton of good photos. You don't know how to contrast that when you don't have any great photos of you. I didn't get any great photos of me until I was in my 20s. Like my father was a photographer, and we got some good photos. We modeled with him. He had a backdrop. He did film. So I know what you're talking about with handling film, and I remember the film shops in New Bedford, how many of them there were to go
Tons
to,
of them.
right? Like that brings up in my mind, I know in music the technology is consistently changing. What has the technology shift been like in photo?
It's been tremendous. I mean, you can shoot in the dark almost now with a camera and really pull all the details out, or at least a good amount of them, and you'd be blown away, whereas in the past, I'm not sure that there's any possibility that you would be able to recover what you can recover, which allows a lot of people with lesser skills to actually like kind of use the gear and come away with something useful. And it's the same thing with music. I used to record on a tape recorder, and now you can have a full studio on your computer. It really killed the music studio even, because you don't need one anymore. You can do a professional album almost on your iPhone.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh Souza. We appreciate you for your time and your energy and your expertise.
Thanks. I appreciate New Bedford community for always being welcoming. New Bedford Creative, of course, I love working with you guys. You guys are fantastic, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for joining us here at New Bedford Creative. We'd like to thank our guests, Robyn Martina Miranda, Leia Onofrey, and Josh Souza. We'd like to encourage you to explore our page and view our other episodes. For New Bedford Cable Network, my name is Hendrik Hernandez Resto. Thank you for joining us.